Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining the channel today. This is the place where everyday objects turn into unbelievable treasures and where small details can lead to life-changing discoveries. So settle in, imagine the sound of coins gently clinking together, and let your curiosity guide you as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating modern numismatic stories ever discussed. The mysterious and astonishing tale of a 2016 1-cent coin that has captured the imagination of collectors around the world and has been rumored, debated, analyzed, and dreamed about as a coin that could reach a staggering value of $14 million, a simple penny that most people would overlook, toss into a jar, or leave forgotten in a drawer, yet under the right circumstances becomes a symbol of how mistakes, errors, and tiny variations can transform base metal into legendary wealth. Because the world of coin collecting is not just about age or gold but about stories written in metal, and the 2016 1-cent stands as a perfect example of how modern minting errors can be just as powerful as centuries-old rarities when the right combination of factors come together, starting with the context of 2016 itself, a year in which millions upon millions of Lincoln cents were produced across different mint facilities using high-speed modern equipment designed for efficiency and uniformity. Yet even the most advanced machines are not immune to error, and it is within these rare moments of imperfection that collectors find magic, because a coin that deviates from the expected standard becomes a physical record of something going wrong, something slipping past quality control, something that was never meant to exist, and that is where value is born, especially when that deviation is dramatic, rare, visually striking, and tied to a popular denomination like the Lincoln cent, which already has a massive collector base worldwide. And when people talk about a 2016 1-cent reaching a potential value of $14 million, they are not talking about a normal circulated penny, they are imagining an extreme convergence of multiple errors and unusual characteristics, a coin that combines some of the rarest known minting mistakes into a single piece, something so extraordinary that it becomes a once-in-a-generation discovery. Because in numismatics, value increases exponentially when errors stack on top of each other, and for the 2016 cent the possibilities are numerous, starting with planchet errors, which occur before the coin is even struck, where the metal blank itself is wrong in some way, such as being struck on the wrong metal composition entirely, for example a cent struck on a silver or gold planchet intended for another denomination, or on a foreign planchet that accidentally entered the production line. And while these errors are already rare, imagine a 2016 1-cent struck on a precious metal planchet that should never have been anywhere near the cent presses, verified by metallurgical testing and confirmed by top grading services, immediately pushing the coin into legendary territory. Then consider weight anomalies, where a planchet is improperly rolled or cut, resulting in a coin that is significantly heavier or lighter than standard, and when such an anomaly is extreme and unexplained, it raises questions that excite collectors and researchers alike, especially when combined with visual distortions, because errors are not just about numbers on a scale but about what the eye can see and the story it tells. And that brings us to striking errors, one of the most dramatic categories in mint error collecting, where the coin is struck improperly, perhaps multiple times, off-center, or with misaligned dies, creating doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled images of the design. And in the case of a hypothetical $14 million 2016 cent, collectors imagine an extreme multi-strike error where the coin was struck several times at different angles, partially overlapping the design, creating a chaotic yet mesmerizing pattern of Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the inscriptions, all distorted yet clearly visible, something that looks more like abstract art than currency. And when such a coin also shows full original mint luster and no signs of post-mint damage, the value increases dramatically. Then there are die errors, which originate from the tools used to strike the coins rather than the blanks themselves, such as doubled dies where the die receives multiple impressions during its creation, resulting in a doubled design that appears on every coin struck from that die. And while minor doubled dies are relatively common, a major doubled die with strong separation visible to the naked eye is rare, and when combined with other errors it becomes extraordinary. And for the 2016 cent, collectors dream of a previously unknown doubled die variety with dramatic doubling on Lincoln's face, the date, and the lettering, something that escaped detection for years, only to surface later in pristine condition, causing a frenzy as experts scramble to authenticate it, because discovery timing also plays a role in value, as a coin found years after its release can create a sense of mystery and suspense, making collectors wonder how many more might exist or if this is truly a unique survivor. And uniqueness is perhaps the most powerful driver of value in numismatics, because a coin that is one of one has no direct comparison, allowing the market to set its price based on desire rather than precedent. And then there are die breaks and cut errors, where pieces of the die crack or break away entirely, leaving raised blobs or missing sections on the coin's surface. And while small die cracks are common, massive die breaks that dramatically alter the design are rare, especially when they occur early enough in the die's life to be sharply defined. And a 2016 cent with a massive cud covering a large portion of the design, perhaps obliterating part of Lincoln's portrait or the date while leaving other elements crisp, would be visually stunning and highly sought after, especially if combined with other errors like off-metal striking or multi-strike characteristics. Then there is the possibility of wrong die usage, where dies intended for a different year or denomination are used accidentally, creating mismatched designs, such as a mule error where the obverse and reverse are from different coins entirely. And while mule errors are extremely rare in modern coinage, their discovery sends shockwaves through the collecting community, and a confirmed 2016 cent mule error paired with an incorrect reverse design would instantly become one of the most famous modern errors ever known, especially if only a single example surfaced, because the story would raise serious questions about mint procedures and oversight, adding intrigue and historical significance to the piece. And beyond physical errors there is the role of condition and preservation, because even the rarest error loses value if it is heavily damaged, cleaned, or worn, but a coin that somehow escaped into circulation and yet remained in near-perfect mint state condition defies expectations, suggesting it was set aside early, perhaps by someone who noticed something unusual but did not understand its significance at the time. And when such a coin surfaces graded at the highest levels with full mint red color, sharp details, and no environmental damage, the value skyrockets, because top-condition modern errors are far rarer than worn ones, as most errors that escape the mint end up in circulation and suffer damage quickly. And then there is the psychological factor, the power of storytelling and hype, because a coin rumored to be worth $14 million becomes a symbol, a dream object, something that captures headlines and imaginations, drawing attention not just from traditional collectors but from investors, museums, and the general public. And when mainstream media picks up such a story, it amplifies demand, as people rush to search their own change, hoping to find a similar treasure. And while most will not, the excitement fuels the market and pushes prices higher for verified examples, especially when auction houses get involved, because a high-profile auction with international bidders can drive prices far beyond initial estimates, particularly for unique items with no comparables. And in such settings the final price is not just about metal or rarity but about competition, ego, and the desire to own a piece of history. And in the case of a hypothetical $14 million 2016 cent, the bidding would represent not just a coin but a moment, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own something that challenges assumptions about modern money, proving that even in an age of mass production, accidents can still create wonders. And then there is the educational aspect, because such a coin forces collectors and mint officials alike to re-examine processes, to study how such an error could occur and slip through unnoticed, contributing to the broader understanding of minting technology and quality control. And that academic interest adds another layer of value, as museums and institutions may seek to acquire or display the coin as an example of extreme mint error, preserving it for future generations as a teaching tool and a curiosity. And we must also consider the role of authentication, because claims of million-dollar values require ironclad proof, extensive testing, expert consensus, and certification by top-tier grading services. And a coin that passes such scrutiny gains legitimacy, separating it from exaggerated or false claims. Next, 2011 D1 cent, today where everyday coins turn into extraordinary stories and where the smallest details can unlock unbelievable value. And as always I invite you to relax, stay curious, and imagine the quiet thrill of discovery as we explore one of the most talked about modern coin legends in the numismatic world. The astonishing and controversial idea of a 2011 D1 cent coin that could be worth an incredible $13 million because of a rare convergence of minting errors. Production mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that transform a humble penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, because in the world of coin collecting value is not dictated solely by age or precious metal content but by rarity, condition, story, and the sheer improbability of survival. And the 2011 Lincoln cent represents the perfect modern canvas for understanding how mistakes can become masterpieces, beginning with the context of its creation when millions upon millions of 1 cent coins were struck at the Denver Mint during 2011 using high-speed automated machinery designed to produce identical pieces with minimal deviation, yet no system is flawless, and even the most advanced minting technology occasionally produces anomalies that slip past inspection, creating coins that were never intended to exist and which later become prized artifacts. And when collectors speak of a 2011 cent reaching a potential value of $13 million, they are not referring to a normal circulation strike but to an extreme hypothetical specimen that combines multiple rare error types into a single coin, pushing it beyond the realm of ordinary error collecting and into legendary status, because rarity multiplies when errors overlap, and the more dramatic, well-defined, and well-preserved those errors are, the more valuable the coin becomes. Starting with the most foundational category of mint mistakes, planchet errors, which occur before the coin is even struck, and in the case of a 2011 cent, the most dramatic scenario would involve the coin being struck on an incorrect planchet entirely, such as a blank intended for a different denomination or even a different metal composition, and while cents are normally struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, there exists the theoretical possibility of a wrong metal planchet entering the cent press, such as a bronze alloy, a foreign planchet, or even a silver or gold-based blank from another process, and if a 2011 cent were discovered struck on a precious metal planchet and verified through metallurgical analysis, its value would instantly skyrocket due to both rarity and intrinsic intrigue, especially if the weight, thickness, and metallic signature clearly contradicted known cent standards, and when combined with sharp strike quality and original surfaces, such a coin would become a centerpiece of modern numismatic study. Then there is the possibility of transitional errors, which occur when the mint changes materials or processes and leftover planchets from an earlier or experimental run are accidentally used, and while no officially recognized composition change occurred in 2011, the mere existence of an undocumented transitional error would shake the collecting world, because it would suggest unknown experimentation or procedural failure, adding mystery and historical significance to the coin. And beyond the metal itself lies the strike, where some of the most visually dramatic errors can occur, such as off-center strikes where the design is not properly aligned on the planchet, leaving blank areas and partial impressions, and while minor off-center strikes are collectible, an extreme off-center strike combined with a full visible date and mint mark is far rarer and more valuable, and if a 2011 cent were struck dramatically off-center yet retained all key identifying features, it would already be a major error, but value increases exponentially when such an error is paired with additional striking anomalies, such as multiple strikes, where the coin is struck more than once by the dies, sometimes at different angles or rotations, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions, and an extreme multi-strike error can produce a chaotic but fascinating appearance that looks almost sculptural, turning the coin into a miniature work of accidental art. And when such a coin remains uncirculated with full mint luster, it defies the odds, because most heavily struck errors are noticed quickly and removed from circulation but often suffer handling damage, so pristine preservation adds another layer of rarity. Then there are die-related errors, which originate from flaws in the dies themselves rather than the planchet or striking process, and among these double dies are some of the most famous and valuable errors in American numismatics, occurring when the die receives multiple misaligned impressions during its creation, resulting in doubling that appears on every coin struck from that die, and while minor doubling is common, a major double die with strong separation visible without magnification is rare, and for a 2011 cent to reach extreme value levels, collectors imagine a previously unknown double die variety with dramatic doubling on Lincoln's face, the date, the mint mark, and the lettering, something that escaped early detection and was perhaps limited to a very small number of strikes before the die was retired, and if only one example surfaced in top condition, its uniqueness would drive immense demand. Then there are die breaks and cuds, where parts of the die crack or break away, leaving raised areas of metal on the coin where design elements are missing or distorted, and while small die cracks are common, massive die breaks that significantly alter the design are rare, especially when they form large raised blobs that interrupt major features. And a 2011 D cent with a massive cut covering a large portion of the obverse or reverse, particularly if it interacts with Lincoln's portrait or the date, would be highly dramatic and sought after, especially if the cut is sharply defined, indicating an early stage break, and when combined with other errors such as off-metal striking or doubling, the coin becomes exponentially rarer. Then there is the category of wrong die pairings and mule errors, which occur when dies intended for different coins are mistakenly paired together, and while extremely rare. In modern coinage, mule errors are among the most famous and valuable mint mistakes because they reveal serious procedural failures, and a confirmed 2011 D cent mule error, such as an obverse paired with an incorrect reverse design, would immediately become one of the most important modern error coins ever discovered, especially if only one example existed, and such a discovery would prompt intense scrutiny from experts and historians, adding layers of documentation and narrative that further enhance value. Then there is the matter of strike pressure anomalies, where insufficient or excessive pressure results in weak or distorted designs, and while weak strikes are common and usually not valuable, an extreme pressure error that creates unusual metal flow patterns, dramatic deformation, or partial design loss can be fascinating, particularly when combined with other errors, because it provides insight into the physical forces at play during minting, and collectors who value educational significance as well as rarity would be drawn to such a piece, and beyond the technical errors lies the critical factor of condition, because a coin's state of preservation plays a massive role in determining its value, and a 2011 D cent that somehow survived with full original red color, sharp details, no cleaning, no corrosion, and no post-mint damage would be extraordinary, especially given the fragility of copper-plated zinc cents, which are prone to spotting, blistering, and environmental damage, and a top-graded example certified by a leading grading service would carry a level of trust and legitimacy that allows the market to assign extreme value, because authentication is everything at this level, and claims of multi-million-dollar coins require extensive testing, expert consensus, and thorough documentation, and once a coin passes those hurdles, it enters a different realm of collecting where price is driven not by catalog listings but by desire, competition, and prestige, and the psychological component cannot be ignored, because a coin rumored or confirmed to be worth $13 million becomes a symbol, a dream object that captures attention far beyond the collecting community, drawing interest from investors, museums, and the general public, and when media coverage amplifies such a story, it fuels demand and speculation, encouraging people to search their own change and learn about mint errors, which in turn grows the hobby and increases awareness. And auction dynamics also play a crucial role, because when a unique or nearly unique item comes to market, competitive bidding among wealthy collectors can drive prices to extraordinary heights, especially when ownership carries bragging rights and historical significance, and in such scenarios the final price reflects not just the coin itself but the moment, the narrative, and the emotions of the bidders. And the 2011 D cent, being a modern coin, also benefits from relatability. Because people remember that year, recognize the design, and feel a connection that makes the idea of such value even more astonishing, reinforcing the notion that treasure can still be found in everyday life. Next. 2001 D 1 cent coin. Today, this is the place where ordinary pocket change transforms into extraordinary stories and where hidden details can lead to astonishing discoveries. So get comfortable and let your imagination travel into the fascinating world of modern coin mysteries as we explore the incredible legend of a 2001 D 1 cent coin that has captured the attention of collectors and dreamers alike with the astonishing possibility of being worth up to $12 million, a simple penny. At first glance, yet one that represents how mistakes, errors, and rare circumstances can elevate an everyday object into a symbol of immense value. Because in numismatics value is not just about age or precious metals but about rarity, uniqueness, condition, and the story frozen into the metal itself, and the 2001 D Lincoln cent offers a perfect example of how modern minting processes, despite their sophistication, can still produce remarkable anomalies that fuel legends and inspire endless searching. beginning with the context of its production at the Denver Mint in 2001 when enormous quantities of Lincoln cents were produced using high-speed machinery designed to strike coins with precision and uniformity, yet even within such controlled systems unexpected errors can and do occur, and it is precisely these deviations from perfection that collectors seek. Because an error coin is physical evidence of a moment when the system failed, when something went wrong just long enough for a unique artifact to be born. And when people talk about a 2001 D cent valued at $12 million, they are not referring to a common circulated example but to an extraordinary hypothetical specimen where multiple rare errors converge, creating a coin so unusual that it stands apart from all others, because rarity compounds when errors overlap. And the more dramatic and well documented those errors are, the more the coin's value increases, starting with planchet errors which occur before the coin is struck and involve the metal blank itself. And for a 2001 D cent, one of the most compelling scenarios would involve a wrong planchet error, where the coin is struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination or composition, such as a foreign planchet or an experimental alloy, and since standard cents of this era are copper-plated zinc, the discovery of a 2001 D cent struck on a different metal entirely would immediately raise red flags and excitement, especially if metallurgical testing confirmed the anomaly beyond doubt. And if that metal were precious or historically significant, the value would increase even more, particularly if the coin retained sharp details and original surfaces, because condition amplifies rarity. Then there is the possibility of transitional errors, where leftover planchets from previous compositions or experimental runs accidentally enter the production line, and although no officially recognized transition occurred in 2001, the hypothetical existence of such an undocumented error would send shockwaves through the numismatic community, as it would suggest unknown experimentation or procedural lapses, adding mystery and historical intrigue to the coin. And beyond the metal itself lies the strike, where some of the most visually dramatic errors are born, such as off-center strikes where the design is misaligned on the planchet, leaving blank areas and partial impressions, and while minor off-center strikes are collectible, an extreme off-center strike that still displays the full date and mint mark is far rarer and more desirable, and if such an error were paired with additional striking anomalies, its value would escalate rapidly, such as multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once, sometimes at different angles or rotations, creating overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait and inscriptions that look chaotic yet mesmerizing, turning the coin into accidental art. And when such a coin somehow survives in near mint state condition with minimal handling marks, it defies expectations, because most dramatic errors are noticed quickly and often mishandled, making pristine examples exceptionally rare. Then there are die-related errors, which originate from flaws in the dies themselves, and among these double dies are some of the most famous in American coin collecting, occurring when the die receives multiple misaligned impressions during its creation, resulting in doubling visible on the struck coins. And while minor doubling is common and often ignored, a major double die with bold separation visible to the naked eye is rare, and a previously unknown 2001 D double die variety with dramatic doubling on Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the lettering would instantly become a key modern rarity, especially if only a handful or even a single example were discovered, and the mystery of how it escaped detection would add to its allure. Then there are die breaks and cuds, where parts of the die crack or break away entirely, leaving raised areas of metal on the coin where design elements are missing or distorted. And while small die cracks are common and usually add little value, a massive die break that dramatically alters the design is far rarer, particularly when it intersects with important features like Lincoln's face or the date. And a 2001 D cent with a large, sharply defined cud could be visually striking and highly desirable, especially if combined with other errors such as doubling or off-metal striking. Then there is the possibility of wrong die pairings and mule errors, where dies intended for different coins are mistakenly paired together, and although extremely rare in modern coinage, mule errors are among the most valuable because they reveal significant procedural failures. And a confirmed 2001 D cent mule error would instantly become one of the most important modern error coins ever discovered, especially if unique, prompting intense study and debate among experts, adding layers of documentation and narrative that further enhance value. And beyond specific error types there is the crucial factor of condition, because even the rarest error loses value if it is damaged, cleaned, or corroded, and copper-plated zinc cents are particularly vulnerable to environmental damage, making high-grade survivors even rarer. So a 2001 D error cent that somehow retained full original red color, sharp details, and pristine surfaces would be extraordinary, especially if certified by a top-tier grading service, because authentication and trust are essential at extreme value levels, and claims of million-dollar coins require extensive testing, expert consensus, and thorough documentation, and once a coin passes those hurdles it enters a realm where value is driven by desire and competition rather than price guides. And the psychological aspect plays a powerful role, because a coin rumored or confirmed to be worth $12 million becomes a symbol of possibility, capturing attention far beyond the collecting community and inspiring people to search their own change, and media coverage amplifies such stories, fueling excitement and speculation, which in turn increases demand for verified examples and for error coins in general. And auction dynamics also contribute, because when a unique or nearly unique item comes to market, competitive bidding among wealthy collectors can drive prices far beyond expectations, especially when ownership conveys prestige and historical significance, and in such moments the final price reflects not just the coin but the story, the rarity, and the emotions of the bidders. And the 2001 D cent, being a modern coin, also benefits from relatability, as people remember the era and recognize the design, making the idea of such value even more astonishing and reinforcing the belief that treasure can still be found in everyday life, and beyond financial considerations. There is educational value, because extreme errors force mints and scholars to re-examine processes and quality control, contributing to our understanding of how coins are made and how mistakes occur, and that academic interest further enhances desirability, as institutions may seek to study or display such a coin, preserving it as an example of extreme mint error for future generations. And when all these factors align, dramatic and multiple errors, pristine condition, verified authenticity, compelling narrative, intense demand, and cultural fascination, the concept of a $12 million 2001 D penny becomes a powerful illustration of how value is created, reminding us that the smallest objects can hold the biggest surprises and that by paying attention and staying curious anyone can participate in the thrill of discovery that defines the world of coin collecting, where even a simple 1-cent coin can rewrite expectations and inspire endless fascination. Next, 1999 D 1-cent coin. Today we are diving into a story that sounds almost unreal yet continues to spark intense curiosity and debate among collectors across the world, because this is the story of the 1999 D 1-cent coin, a penny that looks ordinary at first glance, the kind most people would ignore, spend, or leave forgotten in a jar. Yet under the right circumstances this humble coin has been discussed as being worth as much as $10 million due to a fascinating combination of minting errors, production mistakes, rare varieties, transitional possibilities, and extreme what-if scenarios that place it among the most talked about modern pennies in numismatic circles. And to truly understand how a 1999 D penny could even be mentioned in the same breath as multi-million-dollar rarities, we have to step back into the late 1990s and examine what was happening inside the United States Mint during this period, because by 1999 the Mint was operating at enormous scale, producing billions of coins annually to meet circulation demand, and whenever production reaches such massive levels, the possibility of human error, mechanical malfunction, die fatigue, and experimental testing quietly slipping into circulation increases dramatically, creating the perfect environment for rare mistakes to be born. And the 1999 D 1 cent was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the small d mint mark beneath the date, and while most of these coins were standard copper-plated zinc cents weighing approximately 2.5 grams, collectors have long speculated that a tiny number may have been struck on the wrong planchets, including leftover bronze planchets from earlier years, foreign planchets, or even experimental metal compositions used internally for testing. And when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, especially in a modern era where quality control is expected to be tight, the rarity increases exponentially, because such coins were never meant to exist. And if a 1999 D cent were authenticated as being struck on a solid bronze planchet similar to pre-1982 cents, with proper weight, composition analysis, and mint certification, it would instantly become one of the rarest modern cents known, and rarity on that level combined with strong collector demand could push valuations into extraordinary territory, especially if only one or two examples were ever discovered. But composition errors are only one piece of the puzzle, because the 1999 penny is already famous for one of the most well-known modern die varieties in U.S. coinage history, the so-called wide AM reverse, an error where the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse is noticeably wider than normal, a reverse design that was intended for proof coins but accidentally used on some circulation strikes. And while most wide AM cents are from Philadelphia, the existence of any Denver minted example with an unintended reverse design would represent a major minting mistake. And even standard 1999 wide AM cents have sold for thousands of dollars, proving that collectors are willing to pay serious money for design mix-ups. And when we imagine a hypothetical 1999 D cent combining a wide AM reverse with other dramatic errors, the value discussion quickly escalates. Because numismatics often rewards not just a single mistake but the collision of multiple rare factors on one coin, and another critical area of interest lies in double die errors, which occur when the coin die receives multiple misaligned impressions during the hubbing process, resulting in doubled lettering, numbers, or design elements that are part of the die itself rather than damage after striking. And while subtle doubling is common and usually worthless, strong double dies are rare and highly sought after, and a bold double die obverse on a 1999 D penny, especially one showing clear separation on the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust, would instantly attract attention. And if such a double die were extreme, visually dramatic, and combined with other anomalies like a wrong reverse or off-metal strike, its importance would be magnified far beyond typical error coins, pushing it into legendary status. And speaking of off-center strikes, this is another category of error that can add significant value, especially when dramatic, because off-center coins occur when the planchet is not properly seated during striking, resulting in part of the design being missing and blank metal showing. And while minor off-center strikes are relatively common, extreme examples showing large percentages off-center while still retaining the full date and mint mark are far rarer. And if a 1999 D penny were struck significantly off-center, on a wrong planchet, with a double die obverse and an unintended reverse design, the numismatic world would be dealing with something almost unheard of: a modern circulation coin embodying multiple textbook errors simultaneously. And this is where the $10 million discussions begin, because once a coin reaches one-of-a-kind status, traditional pricing guides become irrelevant, replaced by private negotiations, auction bidding wars, and institutional interest. And beyond these well-known errors, there are more subtle yet equally fascinating possibilities such as die cracks, cuds, retained cuds, and interior die breaks, which occur when a die begins to fail under pressure, creating raised blobs or missing sections of design on the coin. And while small die cracks are common and usually not valuable, massive cuds that dramatically alter the appearance of a coin can be extremely rare, especially when they occur early enough in a die's life to strike only a handful of coins before being pulled from service. And a large cut affecting Lincoln's portrait or the reverse memorial building on a 1999 D cent could significantly boost desirability, particularly if paired with other errors. And then there is the possibility of a blockage error, which happens when a previously struck coin becomes stuck to a die and impresses a mirrored image onto the next planchet, resulting in one normal side and one ink-use mirrored side, an error that is visually stunning and instantly recognizable. And while blockages are more common in earlier coinage, they can still occur in modern times. And a 1999 D penny with a full blockage combined with another major error would be a showstopper at any auction, and collectors would compete fiercely for ownership, driving prices higher and higher. And another rarely discussed but intriguing possibility involves transitional errors related to die design changes, because even small adjustments in hub design, lettering style, or spacing can create unintended varieties when old and new dies are mixed. And if a 1999 D cent were discovered with a reverse or obverse design element not officially documented for that year, it would raise serious questions about internal mint processes and experimental testing. And coins that reveal behind-the-scenes experimentation often become historically important beyond their monetary value, because they provide physical evidence of decisions and mistakes that were never meant to be public. And then there is the concept of mules, one of the rarest and most valuable error types of all, where mismatched dies from different denominations or years are paired together. And while no confirmed 1999 D-cent mule has been publicly documented, the theoretical possibility alone fuels speculation, because if a penny were ever found struck with a cent obverse and a non-cent reverse, or a mismatched year or design, its value would instantly leap into the millions due to absolute uniqueness, and the Denver Mint's high production volume during this period means that if such an error did occur, it could have slipped into circulation unnoticed, waiting to be discovered decades later. And of course any discussion of multi-million-dollar coins must address authentication, because the modern market is flooded with altered coins, plated coins, damaged coins, and outright fabrications, making professional verification absolutely essential, and only coins certified by top grading services with full metallurgical testing, die attribution, and error classification could ever command prices approaching $10 million. Because serious collectors and investors demand certainty, and the presence of proper certification transforms a curiosity into a recognized artifact of mint history, and provenance also plays a massive role in value, because a coin with a documented discovery story, such as being found in an original mint bag, a sealed bank roll, or a long-held estate collection, carries an added layer of credibility and romance, and coins with compelling stories often sell for far more than similar examples without such history, because collectors are buying not just the coin but the narrative surrounding it, and the psychological element of rarity cannot be overstated, because when collectors believe they are competing for something that may never appear again, rational limits disappear, and prices can soar to levels that outsiders find unbelievable, and this has happened repeatedly throughout numismatic history, from the 1913 Liberty nickel to the 1943 copper cent, both of which were once dismissed as myths before becoming some of the most valuable coins in the world, and the 1999 D penny, while modern, taps into that same fascination, because it exists at the intersection of high production, complex minting technology, and human error, reminding us that even in an age of automation, perfection is not guaranteed, and mistakes can still create legends. Next, 1989 1-cent coin. Today, a place where ordinary coins turn into extraordinary stories and where loose change becomes legendary treasure. And today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and talked about modern penny mysteries ever imagined, the story of the 1989 1-cent coin that under extraordinary circumstances has been discussed as being worth as much as $16 million. A value so shocking that it forces us to rethink everything we assume about modern coins, because this is not about ancient gold or centuries-old silver but about a small copper-colored cent from the late 20th century, a time many people think is too recent for true rarity, yet the 1989 penny proves that mistakes, errors, and rare possibilities can turn even a modern coin into something almost priceless, and to truly understand how such a staggering valuation can even be imagined, we must step into the world of the United States Mint in the late 1980s, a period marked by massive production numbers, evolving technology, changing quality control systems, and the constant pressure to produce billions of coins efficiently, because by 1989 the Lincoln cent had already undergone one of the most significant changes in its history with the shift from bronze to copper-plated zinc in 1982, a change that saved money but introduced complexity, as different metal compositions, planchets, and testing materials coexisted within mint facilities, creating an environment where rare mistakes could occur. And while most 1989 cents were struck correctly on copper-plated zinc planchets weighing around 2.5 grams, collectors have long speculated about the possibility that a very small number could have been struck on the wrong planchets, including leftover bronze planchets, experimental compositions, or even foreign blanks, and a wrong planchet error from this era, especially if verified as genuine by metallurgical testing, would instantly elevate a 1989 penny into a category of extreme rarity, because such coins were never meant to exist and represent a breakdown in the minting process, and rarity of that level is one of the foundational pillars behind multi-million-dollar valuations, but composition errors alone are not enough to explain the $16 million discussions, because the 1989 penny is also associated with one of the most intriguing and famous modern penny varieties ever discovered, the close AM reverse, a design detail where the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse appear unusually close together, a style originally intended for proof coins rather than circulation strikes, and while close AM reverses are well known on some years, their unexpected appearance on circulation coins reveals that dies intended for proof production were sometimes mistakenly used in regular coinage, and such a mix-up represents a significant error in mint operations. And although many known close AM cents are worth thousands rather than millions, the possibility of a 1989 circulation strike with an unintended reverse design, especially if paired with other major errors, dramatically changes the conversation, because numismatic value multiplies when multiple rare attributes exist on a single coin, transforming it from an interesting variety into a potentially unique artifact. And then there is the topic of double die errors, which occur during the hubbing process when a die receives multiple misaligned impressions, resulting in doubling. That is part of the die itself and appears consistently on every coin struck from it, and while minor doubling is common and often dismissed, strong double dies are rare and highly desirable, and if a 1989 cent were discovered with a dramatic double die obverse showing clear separation on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," it would instantly become a major numismatic event. And when we imagine such a double die existing on a coin that also features an unintended reverse design or a wrong planchet, we begin to understand how theoretical values can escalate into the millions, because such a coin would not just be rare, it would be exceptional, possibly unique, and uniqueness is what breaks traditional pricing models, because when only one example exists, there is no comparison, no guide, only what the most determined buyer is willing to pay, and beyond double dies. The 1989 penny era also opens the door to discussions about off-center strikes, broad strikes, and misaligned dies, errors caused when the planchet is not properly seated or the dies are not correctly aligned during striking, and while small off-center errors are relatively common, extreme examples that still retain the full date and mint mark are far rarer and far more valuable. And a 1989 penny struck significantly off-center on a wrong planchet with a double die obverse would be almost unimaginable, yet history shows that improbable combinations do occur, and when they do, they create coins that collectors talk about for generations. And then there are die breaks, cuds, and retained cuds, which occur when a die begins to crack or break under the immense pressure of striking coins, creating raised blobs or missing sections of design on the coin. And while tiny die cracks are common, massive cuds that dramatically alter the appearance of a coin are rare and visually striking. And a large cut affecting Lincoln's portrait or the reverse memorial on a 1989 cent could add another layer of rarity, especially if it occurred early in the die's life and struck only a handful of coins before being removed. And another visually stunning error type is the brockage error, where a previously struck coin becomes stuck to a die and impresses a mirrored ink-use image onto the next planchet, resulting in one normal side and one mirrored side. An error that captures immediate attention and is highly collectible, and while brockages are more commonly associated with earlier coinage, they can and do occur in modern times, and a 1989 penny with a full brockage combined with another major error would be a centerpiece of any advanced collection. And then there is the realm of mules, perhaps the rarest and most valuable mint errors of all, where mismatched dies from different denominations or years are paired together, creating coins that were never intended to exist. And although no confirmed 1989 cent mule has been publicly documented, the theoretical possibility alone fuels speculation, because if such a coin were ever discovered and authenticated, its value would instantly leap into the multi-million-dollar range due to absolute uniqueness, and the late 1980s were a time of high production volume, meaning that if such a catastrophic error occurred briefly before being noticed, it could have slipped into circulation unnoticed, waiting decades to be discovered. And beyond physical errors, the condition of the coin plays a massive role in value, because a coin exhibiting multiple rare errors but heavily worn or damaged will always be worth less than one preserved in pristine mint state condition, and a hypothetical $16 million 1989 penny would almost certainly need to be in exceptional condition, possibly struck early in the die's life with sharp details, original surfaces, and minimal handling, making it even rarer, because survival in such condition is never guaranteed, and authentication is absolutely critical in any discussion of coins worth millions, because the modern market is filled with altered coins, plated coins, damaged coins, and outright fabrications, and only coins certified by top-tier grading services with full documentation, metallurgical testing, and error attribution could ever command such values, because serious collectors, investors, and institutions demand certainty. And certification transforms a coin from a curiosity into a recognized piece of mint history, and provenance also plays a crucial role, because a coin with a documented discovery story, such as being found in an original bank roll, a sealed mint bag, or a long-held estate collection, carries an added layer of credibility and appeal, and coins with compelling stories often sell for far more than similar examples without such history, because collectors are buying not just metal but narrative, mystery, and connection to the past. And the psychological element of rarity cannot be overstated, because when collectors believe they are competing for something that may never appear again, rational limits disappear, and prices can soar to levels that seem unbelievable to outsiders, and this has happened repeatedly throughout numismatic history, from the 1913 Liberty nickel to the 1943 copper cent, both of which were once dismissed as myths before becoming some of the most valuable coins in the world. And the 1989 penny, while modern, taps into that same fascination, because it exists at the intersection of mass production and human error, reminding us that even in an age of advanced machinery, perfection is not guaranteed, and mistakes can still create legends, and the $16 million valuation often mentioned is not a standard price but rather a theoretical ceiling based on a perfect storm scenario where a single coin combines extreme rarity, multiple dramatic errors, flawless condition, unquestionable authenticity, and intense competition among wealthy collectors or institutions, possibly including museums or private foundations seeking to own the ultimate modern mint error, and in such a scenario, price becomes secondary to prestige, and the winning bidder is not just purchasing a penny but securing a permanent place in numismatic history. Next, 1984 1-cent coin, today where we dive deep into the hidden stories, unbelievable discoveries, and jaw-dropping mysteries of rare coins and everyday pocket change that can secretly be worth a fortune, and today's story is one that sounds almost impossible but has fascinated collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world for decades, because we are talking about a simple-looking 1984 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would toss aside without a second thought, yet under the right circumstances this tiny copper coin has been rumored, discussed, debated, and valued by some experts and collectors at figures reaching as high as $11 million, and the reason behind such a mind-blowing value does not come from gold content or ancient history but from a unique combination of minting errors, production mistakes, rare die varieties, transitional metal possibilities, and one of the most intriguing periods in modern U.S. coin manufacturing history, making this coin a perfect example of how ordinary objects can become extraordinary through accident, oversight, and rarity. So let's take a deep journey into the world of the 1984 1-cent and explore how errors and mistakes can turn a single penny into a multi-million-dollar legend. Beginning with the historical context of the early 1980s when the United States Mint was undergoing massive changes due to rising metal costs, economic pressure, and the transition from traditional bronze composition to copper plated zinc, a change that officially took place in 1982 but continued to create confusion, experimentation, and unintended results for years afterward, because even though the Mint announced the switch, leftover planchets, testing batches, die changes, and human error meant that unusual coins could still be struck long after the official transition date. And by 1984 the penny was supposed to be a copper-plated zinc coin weighing about 2.5 grams, yet collectors have long suspected that a very small number of pennies from this year may have been struck on the wrong metal planchets, including bronze planchets similar to pre-1982 cents or even experimental compositions never intended for circulation, and when a coin is struck on the wrong metal, its rarity instantly increases because it represents a mistake that should not have escaped the mint. And if such a coin exists from 1984 in the wrong composition, verified by professional grading services and metallurgical testing, its value could skyrocket into the millions due to its uniqueness and historical importance. But composition errors are only the beginning of the story, because the 1984 1-cent is most famous for one of the most dramatic double die errors ever discovered on a modern U.S. coin, specifically the 1984 double die obverse, an error so strong that it can be seen clearly with the naked eye, especially on the word liberty and the date itself, where the doubling appears thick, bold, and unmistakable, making it one of the most visually striking double dies in the Lincoln cent series. And while many double dies exist across different years, the strength and clarity of the 1984 double die places it in a special category, and although most examples sell for far less than millions, the existence of extreme double dies, potentially combined with other errors on the same coin, opens the door to extraordinary valuations when multiple rare features collide on a single specimen, because in numismatics, rarity is not just about one mistake but about the combination of mistakes, timing, condition, and survival rate, and this is where the $11 million discussions begin, because some experts theorize that the highest valued 1984 cent would need to exhibit not just one but several extraordinary errors at once, such as a double die obverse paired with a wrong planchet strike, possibly struck off center, with die cracks, cuds, or even a brockage error, all preserved in near-perfect mint state condition, something so unlikely that it borders on miraculous, yet history has shown that such miracles do occasionally happen, and when they do, collectors are willing to pay unimaginable sums to own a piece that may be literally one of a kind, especially when it represents a documented mistake from a major national mint, adding layers of fascination and desirability, and beyond double dies and wrong planchets. The 1984 penny era also raises questions about mule errors, where mismatched dies from different denominations or years are accidentally paired together, and while no officially confirmed 1984 cent mule with another denomination has surfaced publicly, the mere possibility fuels speculation, because mule errors are among the rarest and most valuable mint mistakes in existence, often commanding 6 or 7 figures on their own. And if a mule involving a 1984 cent were ever authenticated, especially involving an experimental or transitional reverse design, its value could instantly leap into the multi-million-dollar range, especially if it were the only known example. And then there is the topic of missing or extra mint marks. Although 1984 cents were primarily struck at Philadelphia with no mint mark and at Denver with a D mint mark, and San Francisco producing proof coins, mistakes involving mint marks, such as repunched mint marks, filled mint marks, or even mint marks appearing where they should not exist, can add significant value, particularly when combined with other errors, and some collectors have speculated about the existence of a 1984 cent bearing an unauthorized or accidental mint mark placement, which if proven genuine would represent a major minting anomaly. And another layer of intrigue comes from die varieties involving date styles, spacing anomalies, and hub differences, because during this era the mint used multiple working hubs and dies, sometimes resulting in subtle but important differences between coins struck in the same year, and in rare cases, a die intended for a different year or experimental run could theoretically be used by mistake, producing a coin that does not match any known standard variety, and such an anomaly would immediately draw intense attention from numismatists worldwide, driving competition and value to extreme levels, especially if the coin were confirmed as a genuine mint error rather than post-mint damage or alteration. And speaking of alterations, it is important to understand that one reason a coin like the rumored $11,001,984 penny generates so much debate is because the market is flooded with altered coins, plated coins, damaged coins, and outright fakes, which makes authentication absolutely critical, and only coins certified by top-tier grading services with full documentation and testing could ever command such astronomical prices, because serious collectors and institutions demand proof, provenance, and scientific verification before committing such sums. And this brings us to the idea of provenance itself, because a coin's story, ownership history, and discovery circumstances can dramatically affect its value, and if a unique 1984 error cent were discovered in an old mint bag, an estate collection, or a documented hoard with credible witnesses and records, its legitimacy and appeal would be greatly enhanced, potentially pushing its value far beyond what a similar coin without such history might achieve. And the psychological factor of owning something legendary also plays a role, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a story, a moment of history frozen in copper, a mistake that slipped through quality control and survived decades unnoticed. And when that story captures the imagination of the public, values can rise far beyond traditional price guides. As seen with famous coins like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double-die penny, both of which started as curiosities and later became icons of American numismatics, commanding prices that once seemed absurd but are now accepted as part of the market, and the 1984 penny, while more modern, taps into the same emotional and historical currents, because it represents a time of transition, experimentation, and human error within a massive industrial system, reminding us that even in modern times perfection is not guaranteed, and mistakes can create treasures, and the $11 million figure often mentioned in discussions is not necessarily a standard market price but rather a theoretical maximum based on a perfect storm scenario where a single coin embodies multiple ultra-rare errors, flawless condition, unquestionable authenticity, and intense competition among wealthy collectors or institutions, possibly including museums or private foundations seeking to own the ultimate modern mint error, and in such scenarios, traditional pricing logic can be thrown aside, replaced by bidding wars driven by ego, prestige, and the desire to own something no one else can, and this is why possibilities matter just as much as confirmed facts in the world of rare coins, because the market is fueled by what could exist just as much as what is already known, inspiring people to search their change, examine old jars of pennies, and dream that they might be holding something extraordinary, and even if most 1984 pennies are worth only face value, the existence of documented errors like the double-die obverse proves that valuable surprises are real, not myths, and encourages continued exploration and education, because knowledge is what separates a lucky find from an overlooked treasure, and understanding weight, composition, strike quality, and design. Last. 2023 1-cent coin. Today we are focusing on one of the most contemporary and mind-boggling stories in modern numismatics, the 2023 1-cent coin, which, under exceptional and very rare circumstances, has been discussed in collector circles as potentially worth up to $18 million, a value that might sound impossible given how new and common pennies generally are, but which can be explained through a combination of minting errors, mistakes, unique circumstances, and the extraordinary possibilities that arise when modern minting processes go awry. And to understand how a coin as recent as the 2023 penny could ever approach such a staggering valuation, we first need to take a look at the context of coin production in recent years, because the United States Mint today operates with state-of-the-art technology but also faces unprecedented challenges and changes in demand, metal costs, and public interest, and while the minting of pennies continues on a massive scale, with billions of coins produced annually, the introduction of new dies, materials, production lines, and automation creates opportunities for errors to occur that collectors may find extremely valuable, and 2023 marked a year of particular interest due to the introduction of a new reverse design for the Lincoln cent, known as the Shield of Freedom, which replaced the longtime Union Shield reverse design first introduced in 2010, making the 2023 cent the first year for this new reverse. And any transition year brings increased chances for minting mistakes, die inconsistencies, and the possible mixing of dies or planchets intended for different designs, especially during the complex process of preparing and striking billions of coins in multiple facilities including Philadelphia and Denver. And one of the most talked about possibilities for the 2023 penny involves a rare die error where the new Shield of Freedom reverse was mistakenly paired with the old Union Shield reverse. Obverse, or vice versa, a so-called mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint errors, because mules occur when dies from different coins are accidentally combined, producing a coin that was never intended to exist, and while mules are rare historically, modern minting technology was thought to nearly eliminate them. But the 2023 transition and reported die confusion raised speculation that such errors might have slipped through quality control, and any verified mule involving the 2023 cent could instantly command values in the millions due to its unique status as a modern mint mistake of the highest order, and beyond mules, there is the possibility of planchet errors involving wrong metal compositions, because while pennies since 1982 have primarily been copper-plated zinc, the mint sometimes experiments with different metal alloys or receives incorrect planchets from suppliers, and a 2023 penny struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or made of an incorrect metal alloy such as pure copper, brass, or even aluminum could instantly become an extremely rare collector's item, especially if confirmed authentic by advanced metallurgical analysis, and while such planchet errors are exceedingly rare in modern coinage due to strict quality controls, the combination of new dies, new reverse designs, and global supply chain changes in 2023 increased the likelihood that one or two such coins might exist, hidden among billions of ordinary pennies. And then there is the question of double die errors, which have fascinated collectors for decades, and while the mint continually upgrades its die production methods, double dies still occur when dies receive multiple misaligned impressions during hubbing, creating visually striking doubling on letters, numbers, or design elements, and a strong double die on the 2023 penny, particularly on the date. The word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," would be highly sought after by collectors, especially if it were dramatic enough to be easily seen without magnification, and if such a double die were combined with other errors like an off-center strike or wrong planchet, the rarity and value would increase exponentially. And speaking of off-center strikes, this error happens when the planchet is not properly aligned under the dies during striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and blank metal is visible. And while minor off-center strikes are common and often overlooked, extreme off-center strikes retaining full date and mint mark are rare and can command premium prices, and if a 2023 penny were found struck severely off-center on a wrong planchet with a double die obverse, it could become one of the rarest and most valuable coins of the modern era. And the same applies to broad strike errors, where the collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking fails or is missing, causing the metal to spread out more than usual and producing a coin with a larger diameter and a weak or incomplete design. And broad strike errors are visually dramatic and highly collectible, and a 2023 broad strike combined with other errors would be nearly priceless. And beyond these common error categories, there are also die breaks, cuds, and retained cuds to consider, which occur when the dies crack or break under pressure, causing raised blobs or missing sections of the design to appear on the coin. And while small die cracks are often overlooked, large cuds early in the die's life can produce striking visual anomalies that are very desirable to collectors, especially on modern coins where such features are rarer. And a 2023 penny with a large cut affecting Lincoln's portrait or the reverse shield of freedom design would be especially unique, adding yet another layer of rarity and appeal. And then there are brockage errors, where a previously struck coin becomes stuck to a die and impresses a mirrored ink-use image onto the next planchet, resulting in one normal side and one mirrored side, an error that is highly prized and can elevate the coin's value significantly. And although brockages are less common in modern coinage, they still happen occasionally, and any 2023 penny with a full brockage error would be a major collector's find. And when you combine these potential errors and anomalies, mule errors, wrong planchets, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die breaks, cuds, brockages, all occurring on a newly designed coin in a year of transition, the possibility arises for a truly unique coin that would command attention and value in the tens of millions, especially if it survived in mint state condition with sharp details and original surfaces, because condition plays a massive role in numismatic value, and a heavily worn or damaged coin with these errors would never approach such values. But a pristine coin with multiple errors could shatter previous records. And of course, authentication is absolutely essential in all of this, because the modern coin market is flooded with altered coins, plated coins, and outright fakes, making professional verification by top grading services with metallurgical testing and error classification the only way to turn speculation into reality. And collectors and investors demand this level of certainty before paying astronomical sums. And provenance is equally important, because a coin with a documented discovery story, such as being found in an original bank roll, mint bag, or a sealed hoard, gains additional credibility and appeal. And coins with strong narratives often sell for more than those without, because collectors seek not just metal but history and story. And the psychological aspect of rarity cannot be underestimated, because when collectors believe they are competing for a coin that may never appear again, traditional price limits dissolve, and bidding wars push prices to levels that outsiders might find Unbelievable, and history has shown this repeatedly from the 1913 Liberty nickel to the 1943 copper cent to modern rare errors like the 1955 double-die Lincoln cent, all of which were once myths or curiosities before becoming some of the most valuable coins in existence, and the 2023 penny taps into that same dynamic. Existing at the intersection of cutting-edge technology, massive production, and inevitable human and machine error, reminding us that perfection is not guaranteed even in the modern age, and mistakes can create legends, and the $18 million valuation often mentioned is not a standard price but rather a theoretical maximum based on a perfect storm scenario where a single coin combines extreme rarity, multiple dramatic errors, flawless condition, unquestionable authenticity, and intense competition among wealthy collectors or institutions, possibly including museums or private foundations seeking to own the ultimate modern mint error, and in such cases, price becomes secondary to prestige, and the winning bidder is not just buying a penny but securing a permanent place in numismatic history, and this is why stories like the 2023 $18 million penny continue to inspire people to search their change, examine old jars, and learn the intricate details of coin design and minting processes, because while the odds are incredibly small, the possibility is very real, and every confirmed error coin discovered today was once an ordinary piece of pocket change overlooked until someone took a closer look, and even if most 2023 pennies are worth only face value, the existence of known varieties and errors proves that valuable surprises can come from the most recent years, encouraging curiosity, patience, and education.